All right. So, yesterday, I taught you how to factor out what? Greatest common factor. Okay, so anytime you're asked to factor anything, that's always your go-to step. Do I have a greatest common factor? So even when we go to factor these quadratics, you're still going to check for a greatest common factor first. So 14x squared, negative 12x, negative 2. Do I have a greatest common factor?
One.
Two.
But the other one does.
Two. Why are they not all divisible by 2?
That was 7, that was 6, that was 2.
I was looking at
One. I meant
No,
1.
because I was looking at the x though. Because if you divide that, then you get rid of the x.
No.
It's just a number.
We're-
Numbers, all the coefficients. You use like all the coefficients. You're on it.
That's what I'm saying.
You're going too far. I'm saying that. Okay,
Because
listen.
14x squared.
Okay, bro. Just
No, it would be 7x squared.
That's what makes it
Dividing that by 7 doesn't change your x's.
Oh.
The only time your x's change is if we divide by x.
Oh,
Okay? Okay. Okay, so you said my greatest common factor is 2. So when I divide everything by 2, 7x squared minus 6x minus 2. Or, sorry, 1. My bad. Oh my goodness.
How did it change to 1?
You're dividing everything by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Is there anything else that I can divide out?
No.
No. Okay. They don't share x's in common because 1 doesn't have an x with it. And 7, 6, and 1 are only divisible by 1. Okay. Your greatest common factor is part of your answer. So when you pull out a greatest common factor, my suggestion to you is take it and put it with your answer. Okay, so the only thing I pulled out was a 2. Okay, now I've got to deal with this hot mess. Okay, so I normally teach this with when A is 1 and then again when A is not 1. I found that the way I was teaching it was blowing people's minds. So I'm reverting back to a new way. So watch what I do. We're going to use this box to factor. So your x squared term goes here. So this is 7x squared. You like switching up the colors like I do?
yes, ma'am. Okay, this goes here.
Okay. Your C term, which is just your number, goes here. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to multiply these two terms. What's 7x squared times negative 1? Negative 7x squared. Okay. We're going to do what I call a T-chart. So I need two numbers that I can multiply together to get negative 7. Two whole numbers. Let me rephrase that. 7 and 1. Okay. Because this is a negative 7, I can either do positive 7 and negative 1 or negative 7 and positive 1. Okay, one of those has to be a negative in order for my answer to be negative. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so now my goal is to pick one of these that when I put them together, I get this middle term. Negative 7. So positive 7 and negative 1 gives me positive 6. Negative 7 and positive 1 gives me negative 6. And again, I want this to match this. So I want to use -7 and +1. Okay. So this also needs to be x squared. Well, how do I get x squared? X times
X.
x times x. So both of these need to have an x with them. We're going to do multiple examples today, I promise you. So if you're completely lost right now, I will get you.
How about putting like an X to the back down?
You can't do it then.
You can't do it.
Okay, it has to be an even. So like if it was x to the 4th, you could do x squared and x squared. Okay. So one of these, -7x goes into one box and 1x goes into the other. Okay, I got these from here. Yes.
How do you know where to put,
Doesn't matter which one you put it in.
with just those two though?
Yep. Does not matter. Okay,
With the
so
7x squared.
this one has to go here. This one has to go here. But once I get these two, they can go in either or. It doesn't matter. So I could have put the -7 up here and the 1 down here. Okay. So now I want you to look at each column separately and each row separately and tell me what they share in common. So 7x squared and -7x. What do they share in common?
7.
A 7 and an x. Okay. Take a look at this column. What do they share in common? A 1. Take a look at this row. What do they share in common? Take a look at this one. What do they share in common?
Nada.
Negative.
Oh,
A -1. Okay. If there's nothing that they share in common, they always share a 1. Okay. Guess what? You just factored your first quadratic.
Yay!
So your factors come from here. So 7x plus 1. This one, x minus 1.
Oh,
That's crazy.
so we're done?
So what's the other way?
yes.
This math one's harder.
Yes.
She was
Because
so
there's
like,
like, oh, you gotta do one for when your A value is a 1.
Kathy,
you do one for
don't be
when
a
your A
hater.
value is not. So there's
I
like
hate the plate.
three
Hate the
different things going
plate.
on, and you gotta remember which one goes into
It's okay.
This way works with everything you do.
You have to have two. You have to have two things in common. What? And if you don't, you have to work harder.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions so far?
No, ma'am.
Yes.
so can you check that, like, to check that you got it right?
Absolutely.
No.
Can I check this? Absolutely. So the way that you check this is called the FOIL method. Oh, yes. So to check this, okay, the way you check this is called the FOIL method. So you multiply your first terms first. So you would take 7x times x. That gives you 7x squared. You then take your outer terms, which is 7x and -1, which gives you -7x. Then we take our inner terms, which is +1 and x. So plus 1x. Then we finally take our last terms, which are 1 and -1, which gives me -1. Okay, once you do that, I've got terms that are alike. I've got like terms of -7x and +1x, which gives me -6x. So I've got 7x squared, that matches. I've got negative 6x, that matches. I've got negative 1, that matches. We're good.
Period.
Period.
No tampons.
Okay. You can also go that step further, Joanna, too, with your 2 that you pulled out. When I multiply this by 2, it gives me 14. If I multiply this by 2, it gives me negative 12. And when I multiply this by 2, I get negative 2. Okay? Yes,
So
ma'am.
if the exponents were like odd numbers, like 3, like Zoe said, you wouldn't do that. What would you do instead?
So if you can go the extra step, it's going to be there's a greatest common factor to pull out with an X to make it into an even. So like if you end up with something like that, it's going to be like, so you'll have something like this, plus 2x squared minus 1x. So then you can pull out an X and then turn it into, minus 1, 2. So then it turns into an even one. That can be all.
Can you not see it?
Because right now we're only focusing on quadratics, so everything's going to go back down to an x squared. Now, there are factoring methods once you get into math 3 when you start factoring x cubed, and that's beyond us right now. I want you to focus on this. You'll be fine. No, there's a special way for all that.
Oh, shit, could be math 3.
You have to take math 3.
I mean, no, not, do they have math 3 honors?
Yes.
Who's teaching recalc?
No.
You're doing AP capstone. You should definitely be taking math 3 honors.
You have to have a screen then.
Yes, because I'm proud.
Jackie, you're taking EpiCap?
I'm so proud. Right.
I'm so proud.
She needs to be proud. of
Must be
herself.
nice to be smart.
Ooh,
It's okay though.
Listen, you're smart too.
Girl,
So
Bobby's
stop.
all smart like me.
Okay,
Yeah,
take a look at this one. Okay, take a look at this one. 9x squared minus 6x minus 15. Again, first thing, ask yourself, GCF. 3. Jackie says I can divide out a 3 evenly.
Greatest common factor. Jesus Christ.
Okay, so when I divide by 3, I've got 3x squared minus 2x minus 5. Okay, is there anything else that the 3 terms share in common that I can divide out? No. Again, don't forget, 3 is part of your answer, so put it there so you don't forget. Okay, that's the most common thing that I see, is you remember to take out your GCF, and then you don't remember to put it with your answer.
If you don't put an answer, it's kind of wrong.
Yes. If it's not with your answer, it's wrong.
So,
But I guarantee you they're going to give you an answer without it and an answer with it. So if you-
and then like do the answer and then
It's called test taking skills. So guess what? If they give you a quadratic and you don't remember how to factor it, but they give you all the answers that are factored, why don't you multiply that all through and match which one goes to the top? Test taking skills. Be smarter than the test.
I thought they was
Yes.
cheating.
I'll take it some type of way.
I thought I was getting
Okay, so your x squared term goes in the top left. Your c term, which is just your number, your constant, okay, goes in the bottom right. What do I get when I multiply the 2 together? Negative 15x squared. Okay, so Bobo says, I'm sorry, was that Travarius?
it was surprising.
3 and 5. Remember, this is negative.
So
So I can have -3 and +5, or +3 and -5. What else works for 15? 1 and 15. Okay, -1 and +15, or +1 and -15. I need to find the one that when I put them together, I'm going to get that middle term. My goal is this. So this gives me +2. This is -2. This is 14. And this is -14. Okay. So my goal is -2, which means I'm going to pick this one. Don't forget, this is x squared. So that's 3x and -5x. Because x times x gives me x squared. Okay. Again, it doesn't matter which one you put where at this point. Okay. So 3x in one of them, -5x in the other. Okay. Look at each column. What do these two terms share in common? Just 1 and an x. So I'm just going to write an x. It's what they share in common. So, in other words, Jackie,
Like, you know what I'm saying?
so you've got 3x and -5x. The only thing that they share in common is 1x. So that gets pulled out.
Oh, so they should cover X.
I don't like the raspberry.
This column, baby, don't. These two, not these two.
I'm talking about salad dressing.
I like Caesar.
Okay, so -3.
Okay, it's all right. It's not
It has to
Caesar
equal
dressing.
Why did you put X on both of them if it's not equal? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Or do you still do that?
Glad you know more.
Because when I would add these together, it's -2x. But when I multiply them, it becomes x squared. Okay? It just clicked. There it was. Okay. Do these two share anything in common? Just a 1.
How you know it's positive or negative?
You always do positive.
Wait, how you get that
It'll
one?
always be positive.
Because they share one.
You can't say it like that.
Share a one.
Can you let her tell you?
Then on
Hey, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up.
Bobo just asked a very good question. How many of you heard it?
Me.
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay. So Bobo said, how do I know if I'm pulling out a +1 or a -1? Okay. So when you're looking at each column, your top number is positive or negative. Pull out a positive. Your top number is positive or negative.
Positive.
Pull out a positive. When you're doing the rows, your first term is positive or negative.
Positive.
When I pull out this row, my first term is
Negative.
negative. So that's where you pull out the negative.
You said it doesn't matter if you flip flop them, so what if we had negative?
Right, what if I put 3 there?
Okay, so is that where you put yours?
No, I was.
That's what I'm
Okay,
on.
so hold on. Let me finish this one and then I'll flip flop them and show you what happens. Okay.
Okay.
So now I'm looking at the rows. What does 3x squared and 3x share? A 3 and an x. What does -5x and -5 share?
Negative.
-5. So your final factors are x plus 1 and 3x minus 5. Okay. So boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. 3x squared. I want 3x down here and -5x here and -5 here. Okay. So, very good question. What happens if I put the 3x down here and the -5x up here? Watch what happens. I'm still doing the same thing. First column, it shares a 3 and an x. This column shares a -5. This row shares an x. This row shares a 1. So all that happens is what I have across the top would be your side one, and what I have across the side becomes your top one.
Does it matter what order we put them in? Like, we had 3 times 5.
No. Okay, so another good question. I like this because y'all really think about things. Okay, so another good question. Your actual answer here could also be 3 times 3x minus 5 times x plus 1. It does not matter which order that your factors are in. It's still the same answer. So I can move this one and make it first and make this one second, and it's still correct. Okay, so do not let that confuse you. We feeling a little bit better now.
Yes, ma'am.
We got 5 more examples. We got this.
Wait, I didn't say it.
I'm sorry. I love the fact that you guys question things though. It helps with deeper understanding. And when you get to math 3, you are going to want to ask those questions. Yes. I am not.
You're not teaching math 3?
I do not teach math 3.
What do you teach?
I teach math 2 and discrete math honors.
I'm not taking math 3.
What's this
You
group?
have to.
What grade is that?
Why don't I?
Discrete math is senior.
Dropping out.
Why can't you
do math 3?
You have to take math 3 first. It's a prerequisite.
Is Estrada teaching breakout?
No, Miss Miller's teaching pre-calc.
And that's after math 3?
Yes. So your guys' next step from here is math 3. You all have to take math 3, whether it's standard or honors. Okay.
Who is standards?
Math 3 is Miss White and Mr. Estrada as of right now.
I'm doing math 3 and pre-calc.
Math 3, period, whether it's standard or honors, is Miss White or Mr. Estrada.
I think you need to.
No. Miss Miller teaches pre-calc and AFM.
So you would never do that.
Yeah, film.
So
I don't like that.
Right, Miss Smith and Miss Miller.
Wait, is biology EOC?
Yes.
What?
Because the loudest I've ever cussed in my life.
She asked if biology was an EOC. Okay. Take a look at this one. Is there a GCF? No, just one. Okay, when it's a 1, you don't even have to do anything with it. You can't take anything out of 2, 3, and 9. Okay, and they don't share x's in common. So we just jumped to the first step. 2x squared in the top left, -9 in the bottom right. Okay, so you said -18x squared.
Wait, how did you get -18 again?
You multiply those two. So 2x squared times 9. If you need to write that on here, it's 2x squared times -9. And that's where that came from. Okay. Okay. I need factors.
-6 and 3.
-6, +3. +6, -3. 9 and 2, good. 1 has to be positive, 1 has to be negative. And 1 and 18. Oh, Lord. Okay, what is my goal here? I need +3. Which one of these is going to give me +3? The second one, 6 and -3. Don't forget, this is x squared, so I need to have x times x. So 6x goes in one, -3x goes in the other. In your case, when we're dealing with quadratics, it's always going to be x and x. Okay.
Oh, so you can go over there. You don't have to worry about like x and
I have a
6.
question. Would this be 2? Like 2x?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what do these two share in common?
2x.
2x.
How? Oh, because you can divide it?
You can divide it. Okay. So it's kind of like pulling out a greatest common factor all over again. Okay, 2 and 6 share a 2 in common. X squared and X share an X in common. This one,
Wait, let me do it.
they share a negative and a 3.
Yay, Lolly.
Okay, these ones,
I want to do it.
just an X. These ones,
3.
a 3. So we've got 2X minus 3 and X plus 3. There is no GCF, so you don't have anything on the outside. You only have something on the outside if you were able to divide it first. Yes, ma'am. Right. Whatever comes first is positive.
Hey, I know you ready.
So when you're doing the columns, it's whatever's on the top. When you're doing the rows, it's whatever on the bottom.
So ready for cheer, bro.
Cheers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You ready for this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want you to try this bottom one on your own real fast. Go.
Okay. Can I see that orange?
Wait, the one under it.
Yes, this one down here. Go. Go, shorty.
I'm lost.
It's your birthday.
We're gonna party like it's your birthday.
Oh. I lied. Let me do this one. Alberto got stuck. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can catch you. Okay, so
So we subtract it or add?
Yeah, I'm doing this in kids. I'm sorry.
okay, so hold on. So when you did this, you had 3x squared here, and you had positive 4 here, right?
Yes.
When I multiply, I get a positive 12x squared.
How?
Correct.
So it's just
No, how?
Okay,
Because they're both
So-
positive.
remember, when that became a negative, I had to have one negative and one positive
Right.
to multiply to get a negative.
Correct.
If I want it to be a positive, I can either have a positive 3 and a positive 4, or a negative 3 and a negative 4.
Wait,
Did that help, Alberto?
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Alberto.
You add them together. So like this would, when you add this, this would give you positive 7. When you add this, this would give you negative 7.
I swear, I get on my classmates' nerves.
Yeah, no, it's a bit. It is.
So when you're trying to find factors of a negative, you need one of each. When you're trying to find factors of a positive, I need both positive or both negatives, depending on what my middle term is. Okay. Yes, add them together.
We're trying to figure out this, right?
Yes, I need factors of
But did y'all say the answer though?
You was
Y'all
saying
answered, I wasn't.
You was.
I wasn't. So y'all can.
Wow. Why can't we be friends?
Miss Smith.
Why can't we be friends?
Because they like to jump to conclusions.
I'm not talking about
Listen,
you.
stop talking and work, please.
I'm talking to Bubba.
Stop talking and work, please. Stop talking and work, please. I'm gonna get canceling out your phone.
You need to get a mute
They
button.
cost you.
Whoa, can y'all work by remote control mute?
No.
Hey.
I was gonna do it too.
So this would be 3 or just X? Because 3
3,
1 is 6.
right. So 3 and the X.
3X.
Yes,
Okay. And then this will be 2.
2. Because your leading number is a negative, bring that negative out as well.
Wait. Because this one is up?
So when you look at this,
Okay.
your top one is your -2. Because that is negative, you want to pull out that negative as well.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So then go here.
So that would be X,
X,
Oh, yeah.
just negative?
negative. What goes into 6 and 4?
2.
2. Perfect. Go Tay-Tay, go Tay-Tay. It's your birthday. It's your birthday.
I wish it was my
Go
birthday.
Tay-Tay.
My birthday.
Yes.
It's not until November.
Okay.
I'm trying to get 17, boy.
I got one more thing though. Okay. When I'm looking at this, my top number is negative, so pull out a negative. Same thing here. My first number is a negative. And what, it doesn't matter. When your first term is a negative, I want you to pull out a negative. What goes into 6, it also goes into 4.
Why are you talking about that?
So that should be 2. Okay, guys, we're gonna go over this. Have a seat. This is not crowd around Miss Smith time. No, I didn't give you permission to get up out of your seat. You should not be out of your seat. Go plant your buds. Whew. I said plant.
I'm gonna finish.
Okay, I'm going to assume at this point that you're all ready to go since there's so much conversation happening right now. Okay, so, whoa. I was like, what are you doing? All right, so we did 3x squared and 4, and you guys told me already that this is positive 12x squared. So we talked about you could have positive 3, positive 4, negative 3, negative 4. What else are factors?
6 and 2.
6 and 2.
Negative 6.
Or negative 6 and negative 2. Okay. I don't require that you list all the factors. Once you know you found it, stop. If you know it right away, I'm not asking you to list out anything else. Okay. So if you're one of those kids that can just look at it and say, okay, these are the factors that work, I don't need this table. This is for the kids that need to work through the process of which one works here. Okay, I want them to add together to give me negative 8. So I'm going with negative 6 and negative 2.
I thought it was negative. Oh.
I need 8. She says, I was listening to Alfredo. Way to go, Alfredo. Okay. This is where people get confused. So please pay attention because I guarantee you, one of you at least have done this. Okay. When I go to pull out here, this is 3x. Okay. 3 and 6 share a 3 in common. 2x is 1x. It shares 1x in common. Okay. When I move over to here, most of you went like this, right?
Yep.
How many of you also took the negative?
I did because you told me to.
I did.
They
Why
should.
would you? You told me to.
Why would you?
Okay. If the first one in my column is negative, always pull out a negative. Even if they both don't have it, always pull out that negative. Okay. Same thing when I go this way. So this is x. Okay, stop being a fool.
Okay, I'm sorry.
When I do this one, my first term is a negative. So make sure you pull out a negative. And 6 and 4 are divisible by 2.
Oh, see, I didn't know you could
It
do
makes
that.
more sense on that side.
So you have, oh, with the left and the right, no.
Wait.
Okay. He just got all confused because I pulled them out on the left. It doesn't matter which side of the block. I could do it at the left and the bottom. Okay. So 3x minus 2 and x minus 2.
Tell you, man. Come on.
So how many of you got that besides the minus 2 and the minus 2? How many of you got it besides the minus and the minus? You had plus and plus.
Oh, I got the minus.
Whoa.
Who got it completely correct with the minus?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right. I can handle this. Okay. I actually want you to try the next one.
I'm sorry.
Stop at the bottom one. I have to go over the bottom one.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do. You are right.
Are these as complicated as they get? Because you said you
If it gets any more complicated, it's because they give you bigger numbers that you're sitting there going, oh crap, what's the greatest common factor of that? Okay. Yes, Ron. Yes. Absolutely, my friend. Erica, what's up?
AJ.
Yeah.
There's a bigger number.
Boom.
There you go, Teron. That's what I needed out of you, my friend.
So then when we do that, and then the other one.
Yes.
That's confusing.
Smith, this is 5x or 2x?
2.
That just confused me. This is 1. This is just x. And 2.
What divides into 10 and 5?
5.
5. So you'll use what you have after you plot. Yes, ma'am. What goes into 10 that also goes into 5? What can go into 5? 1 and
2.
no. How do I multiply? Does 5 also go into 10?
Yeah.
So I can pull out. There you go. X 1. You go, girl. I feel like you did it wrong. Come on, Alfredo.
Alfredo, if you think you got it wrong, I think I got it wrong too.
Boy, you ready for this? That's absolutely correct.
Oh my God, you look at
He can math.
Miss Smith, is this 1 or 7?
Okay.
You like number big.
You're fine. You're fine. Yes.
You could be a math teacher.
Yes, you do.
That's
Beautiful. Both of them are beautiful. Go, Bobo. Go, Bobo. Uh-oh. It's Bobo.
And Bobo really got it.
Come here. Come here.
Let me see.
Oh my God.
This girl put 6 hours.
You sound like a mother trying to prove their child.
I know
Look at
that.
the nose.
What's that?
What was that movie? Wasn't it Back to the Future?
No, every time you get my
That's from my
On
man.
both of y'all.
I just got on you.
I'll give you that looks golden. Are you doing happy? Girl happy. Girl happy.
I know it's
Okay, yeah, so you gonna have to see what I'm saying? I will, but come on.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go. Okay, I'll send you sit down. No, sit down. Sit down.
No.
It was
No.
not.
This
was
college.
You go, girl. Woo-hoo. Uh-oh. Hey.
At least you get a disability check. I can't risk it. And it's a me look at this anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
Miss from here though. Obviously.
Hey.
Whoa. You pull it out of 10. So what's left?
Yo, I'm going.
Once you pull it out.
You're going to eat.
Oh. This is why we don't do 7 things Allie.
Bro, oh my God.
Get your hand up. Get your hand up.
They just going, bro. It's like.
That's my fault.
So this
It's too hard to watch. This must be, well, I'm taking them to fight.
Whoa, guys, there is no call for this. Harley, please go back to your seat where you belong. So from now on, no one gets up out of their seats in this room unless you ask permission first. This is insane.
Oh my God.
When did you all get so out of control and so disrespectful that you want to scream in my classroom?
They threw
And
something
have
at me.
theory? Stop. Y'all are in high school. Please grow up.
Where?
Emma, that looks great.
That
That looks great.
Sure looks great.
Yes.
From way over there, the head will part right in his head.
Yes. Don't forget to put your 10 right here, though. That's it.
Okay.
Okay? All right. I should not have to wait for you. Stop, please. Okay. This one has no greatest common factor, so you should have started out with 2x squared and 5. That gave you 10x squared. When you factored it, you got 10 and 1 that gave you 11. So you put 10x in one spot, 1x in the other. These two share a 2 in common and an x. These two share nothing but a 1. These two share just an x. These two share a 5. They're both divisible by 5. So you should have finished this one off as 2x plus 1 and x plus 5.
Yay!
Yay! Are we going to Dora now?
Somebody said I look like Dora when I cut my hair.
Okay, this one. This one had a greatest common factor of 10. You should have taken that out first. So that left me with x squared plus 8x plus 7. So that means x squared goes here, 7 goes here. So 7x squared is what I'm trying to find factors of. Well, you can either have 1 and 7 or -1 and -7. Sorry. But I need a positive 8. So I want this one. So I've got 1x and positive 7x. These two share an x in common. These two share a 7 in common. These two share an x in common. These two share nothing but a 1. So x plus 7, x plus 1. What did I forget?
10.
The 10 in front. Don't forget. Thank you.
Wait.
Listen, I'm not going to tell you enough because I forget it still if I do not write it first. Okay. Yes.
You told me that I was great and
You didn't have your 10 written.
No. I have one.
No.
Does that even matter?
What, one in front of the X? There's an unwritten one there. It doesn't matter. It's still the same thing. No, you're good. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I got clench my throats. Yo, what?
She don't know. Okay. This last one. This is actually a special factoring case. However, you can do it the way that I taught you to do everything else.
Okay.
Okay? This is actually called the difference of squares. What does difference mean?
Difference.
Subtraction. Is there a minus sign?
Yes.
Okay. What's the square root of 16?
4.
I mean 4.
What's the square root of x squared?
X.
That's why they call it the difference of two squares. X squared is a squared term, 16 is a squared term, and there's subtraction in the middle. So watch what happens, and then I'll show you the shortcut.
That was like mine.
It only works for those though.
At this time, please allow all members of the Boys and Girls Track Team to be dismissed. Thank you.
And after. Okay,
Bye.
so is there a greatest common factor?
No.
No, there's nothing we can pull out. So again, my x squared term goes here. My constant value goes here. What am I missing in this one?
The
The
number
B.
you're supposed to be, yeah.
The number that goes in front of x, we're missing that. Okay, when I multiply these two together, I get negative 16x squared. Good. So, no. When my b value is missing, I need to give you your homework.
Dang, you almost got away, bud.
No, because that would have been on him if you didn't ask me for it.
Can I be white for a minute?
Oh, so we got.
Okay, so
Ooh.
on the next
Adios,
page,
amigos.
I can glue that in.
Amiga.
This is your sharp marker and factor this.
What'd you say?
If you don't put your headphone on, messed up. That beat has been messed up.
I said
People
best
that
friend.
headphone while
Okay. So my b value, that term in front of x that I normally try to go for. So like here, my goal was 8x. Here, my goal was 11x. Well, there is no goal.
I know the goal.
It's one.
So my goal is 0. If it's non-existent, it's 0. So I need two numbers that are going to multiply to give me 16.
Negative 4.
Negative 4 and positive 4. Okay, so negative 4 and positive 4 give me 0. Yay! So we put in a negative 4x and a positive 4x. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What do they share in common? X. What do they share in common? Negative 4. In common. In common. So I end up with x minus 4, x plus 4. Okay, before you close that up, pay attention here for a minute. Those of you that want the shortcut for this way works every time still. You can still use the box method. But those of you that want the shortcut, you told me if I take the square root of x, I get x. You told me if I take the square root of 16, I get 4. X, 4.
Oh my God, guys.
One's positive, one's negative. Every time.
But that wasn't like that on the other one.
It only works for a difference of squares.
Oh.
Okay, so I can do something like, let me do this one. Let's do 4x squared minus, let's do 49.
7 times 7.
Okay, so in order to do a difference of squares, I need subtraction. B has to equal 0, so there has to be no middle term. What do I get when I take the square root of 4x squared? 2x. What do I get when I take the square root of 49?
7.
7. One with a plus.
And one
One
with a
with a
negative.
Ooh.
So, how about this?
You.
Can't do it. It's not possible. If it's positive, it's not possible. It is a difference of 2 squares.
But Miss,
It's 76.
I'm still confused, because you said it don't matter. When we just did, you said it don't matter which side it's on, right?
Right?
So, like, how did you get that positive 4? From 4x to negative 16.
Because they're both divisible by 4.
Okay, would there ever be a problem like that positive?
Okay, so if for some reason you got this with a positive instead of a negative, your answer is not factorable.
Oh, that's even better.
You can't do it.
I will circle
It
that.
has to be the difference.
How is it not?
Because
How much factor applies to
Right.
Okay,
Like, how can
Ooh,
I see something?
I like this. I really like this. Okay, hold on. Last thing, focus. Woo! So, she just said, how does factoring apply in a word problem? Ooh, I like this. So, of course,
Of course.
the one that questions everything, and I love it. Okay, so factoring an equation is another way to find your x-intercepts. Oh, it shows you where the cross is the graph. So once you have factored an equation, what you would do is you would set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So when I solve this first one, x minus 4 equals 0, I would add 4. So x equals 4. This one I would subtract 4. So x equals negative 4. What this tells me is my graph
We'll be at 4, negative 4.
crosses at negative 4 and positive 4 on my x-axis. Those are your 2 roots, your 2 solutions, your 2 zeros.
So can we write this down?
So this don't say your vertex?
This on page
No,
76,
this will
right?
not tell you a vertex, but factoring it will tell you the zeros. Okay, that's why we talked about intercept form, and you said right away about it being just the opposite of what we have. So the opposite of negative 4 is the positive 4. The opposite of the positive is the negative. Yes, Arlene, you may use the restroom now.
This same thing we did yesterday?
Probably not.
So we don't